There is a form of lost media that has slowly been growing in popularity, and which I find uniquely compelling. That is, lost recordings of live stage shows. The short-running nature of live performances naturally lean towards an earlier end compared to other forms of media. It isn't quite the same to experience a show that is recorded rather than experiencing it live in person, but most stage performances are at least preserved to document its details, who the cast and crew were, and what the audience who did get to view them experienced. So when a show goes missing, with even these basic details or a simple recording being completely unavailable, the itch of lost media is brought back to the forefront, especially when those shows are ones shown at theme parks or involving well-loved characters and IP. Welcome to Top Tower Review, the program where we look back at media through the ages, and today we're discussing live stage shows that have become lost media. Dragon Tales Live. Dragon Tales Live was a series of 3 touring stage performances based on the PBS Kids animated television program, Dragon Tales. Dragon Tales aired on PBS from 1999 to 2005 over the course of 3 seasons, and ran in syndication until 2010. The show focused on Max and Emmy, 2 Mexican-American children who travel to the mystical Dragonland when they discover a magical dragon scale after moving to a new home. While in Dragonland, Max and Emmy learn social lessons while hanging out and adventuring with young dragons they meet, such as Ord, Cassie, Zack and Wheezy, and the adult dragon teacher Quetzal. The live stage shows adapted the program by having live child actors perform the roles of Max and Emmy, while actors in full-body costumes performed as the dragon characters, while lines from the television show's voice actors played over the theater sound system. The stage shows began touring in October of 2001, nearly exactly 2 years after the television show's 1999 premiere, and ran until 2006. 1 year after the animated show's production ceased. However, the live stage shows never incorporated any changes from the show's 3rd season, such as the introduction of the character Enrique, a 3rd protagonist who was introduced in addition to Max and Emmy, and instead remained the same as they had in years prior. The shows were produced by V Corporation, a live entertainment production company which is based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and was founded in 1980 by Vincent Egan. Egan was a marketing executive who worked for General Motors, quit to buy a farm, stopped working on the farm after becoming a marketer for The Ice Follies, a live stage show which incorporated the Muppets, worked his way up in this position to vice president of marketing and operations, had a disagreement with his boss, got fired, moved back to the farm, only to quit farming yet again just 2 years later to start his own company, which began producing a live touring stage show based on Sesame Street, a production which will come up again later in this video. Egan's winding road towards these live stage productions was an eventual success, and after nearly 2 decades of tours with the Sesame Street property, V Corporation, known today as V-Star Entertainment Group, began producing these live performances based on Dragon Tales. In total, 3 different Dragon Tales stories for the stage were produced, all running at approximately 90 minutes in length: The Missing Music Mystery, Journey to the Crystal Cave, and Riddle of Rainbow River. Approximately 30 minutes of the beginning of The Missing Music Mystery has been archived via a recording from a viewer that was uploaded to YouTube in 2009. Additionally, some advertising material and performance photographs from back in the day have surfaced online. However, most of these 3 stage shows remain missing. Exact tour dates and locations have been archived via the DragonTalesLive.com website through the Wayback Machine on archive.org. For example, we know that the very first show was on October 4th, 2001 at the Target Center in Minneapolis, which makes sense considering the location of the V Corporation headquarters. Some fans who saw these shows live as children kept their activity booklets, the equivalent of a playbill, and have shared them in dedicated online fan communities. Other insights into what these shows entailed can be found through promotional material, including flyers, newspaper advertisements, or interviews advertising the show's dates in a particular city. These insights include the creation of original characters for the stage. One example is Cyrus the Slippery Serpent, who acts as a villain for the Journey to the Crystal Cave show, who is discussed in an article from 2003 in the Seattle Post-Intelligencer, an online and previously in-print newspaper. In this article, Dragon Tales Live show director Stephanie Harmon states, quote, Cyrus brings a different dynamic to it. He brings the whole right and wrong into it. He does not share. He's not a bad guy. He's just doing the wrong thing. Dragon Tales helps kids work through the conflicts and come up with an answer on their own. In this article, Harmon also talks about the interactivity of the show, explaining that viewers were encouraged to sing and dance along. Quote, "We see a lot of parents getting up and doing the touch your toes stuff. It's a lot of fun for parents because they don't have to worry about their kids sitting still for an hour and a half. They can get up and dance." As nice as these insights into the nature of the shows are, unfortunately as of the making of this video, the 30 minutes of the missing music mystery on YouTube and these snippets of promotional material are all that can be viewed online. The other 60 minutes of the missing music mystery, along with Journey to the Crystal Cave and Riddle of Rainbow River in their entirety, are lost to this day. The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle, Universal Studios. The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle was an animated television series that aired on NBC and ABC from 1959 to 1964. It starred the titular squirrel and moose duo through their comedic misadventures. The show and characters were the brainchild of animation legend Jay Ward, who created a variety of cartoons through the 50s, 60s, and 70s, including Dudley Do-Right, Hoppity Hooper, and George of the Jungle, just to name a few. He was also responsible for original cartoon commercials for multiple breakfast cereals, including his iconic design for Cap'n Crunch. In 1992, a live stage production using the characters in full-body costumes was created for the Universal Studios theme parks in Hollywood, California, and Orlando, Florida. It premiered in this first iteration as a 16-minute live performance at both parks, while each park's show seems to be distinct and different from the other. This is confirmed by footage that is available, with the 1992 show from the Orlando park being archived in its entirety via a recording by a park guest, and hosted on YouTube by a user named Leah Handler. For the Hollywood version of the show, the only known footage are snippets from a 1992 VHS tape called Universal Studios Hollywood, a universe of cinemagic, a sort of behind-the-scenes video for the park and its operations, and which could be purchased at the gift shops as a souvenir. These snippets of the 1992 show vary in a multitude of ways from the Orlando performance, including the script and show action itself, as well as the character costumes. The 1992 show ended in Orlando as early as 1993 and was replaced by a live show called Star Toons, which starred a variety of characters, including Woody Woodpecker, Yogi Bear, Scooby-Doo, and many others. Meanwhile, the Hollywood edition of the show ended in 1996, eventually being replaced by a live The Land Before Time performance. After the Hollywood show's 1996 cancellation, Rocky and Bullwinkle remained off the stage at Universal until the year 2000, when a new show was performed throughout the year and into 2001 to coincide with the new The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle feature film. The feature film tried to blend 3D animation and live action in a sort of nod to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but way worse. It simply didn't work. The film was a huge commercial and critical failure, resulting in the stage show being very short-lived. As a result, no footage of the 2000 version has been found anywhere on the internet, remaining lost in its entirety outside of a newly discovered photograph. Rocky and Bullwinkle still have a small presence at the Universal theme parks, most significantly at the Toon Zone area of Universal Orlando's Islands of Adventure, which gets its theming from comic strip and cartoon characters of old, including a multitude of Jay Ward's IP. Still, the remaining sections of the 1992 Hollywood show and the 2000 version of the show in its entirety remain missing. Danger Rangers Live in Safety Rules. Danger Rangers was an animated cartoon program which aired on PBS Kids from 2005 to 2006, only having one season produced, but which ran in syndication on PBS up through 2009, and also aired briefly in syndication on CBS Saturday mornings. The show was the brainchild of creators Walter Douglas Smith Jr. and Michael D. Moore, and focused on various topics to help keep kids safe, such as to be careful around bodies of water, or to look both ways while crossing the street. Each episode also included some kind of catchy sing-along song related to the topic at hand, which made for good source material that could translate well to a live stage show. On April 29, 2006, Danger Rangers Live in Safety Rules premiered at the Dutch Wonderland amusement park in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Dutch Wonderland is a local theme park primarily marketed towards small children, though also with some moderately thrilling rides for families, including 3 roller coasters. The Danger Rangers show played for 2 seasons at the park from 2006 through 2008, 2008. In the show, performers in full-body costumes of Danger Ranger's characters, including Sully the Seal, Burble the Polar Bear, Kitty the Cat, and Gabriella the Hummingbird, would perform as voice lines from the television show's voice actors played over the speaker system. However, by the live show's second season, Gabriella was mostly replaced in favor of Brandon, the Knight of Safety, a Dutch Wonderland original character who focuses on being safe and who continues to exist at the park to this very day. The characters would explain how to be safe in certain scenarios, before ending the show by singing "Everybody Be Water Safe," a popular song from the TV program. Children would also have photo and autograph opportunities with the characters after each performance. The live show was a success across these 3 years, and was even awarded an honorable mention award for Best Edutainment Show from the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. It was then decided by Educational Adventures, the company behind the television show, to team up with a live show production house called RWS and Associates to rework the live show for larger audiences and bring it on the road in a fashion similar to Sesame Street Live and Dragon Tales Live. At this time, Danger Rangers was mostly considered a success on PBS and was slated for additional episodes. Unfortunately, legal problems related to the show and its production would soon come for the Danger Rangers and would affect both the television program and the stage show. Unfortunately, the lawsuit is largely shrouded in mystery, though the showrunner, Michael D. Moore, was sued for, quote, financial mismanagement and fraud, which Moore responded to with a countersuit. However, the legal issues and their financial strain bankrupted Educational Adventures. The company closed midway through production on Danger Rangers Season 2, leading to staff members on the production team not getting paid, and all the deals the company had formed, including those with RWS and Associates, ending. Danger Rangers Live would not return to Dutch Wonderland for a third season. The hopes of a second television season all went up in flames. As of 2009, Michael D. Moore vowed to fight the legal fight and get the rights to Danger Rangers back and return it to television. But sitting here almost 17 years later, it's safe to say that never happened and never will. With the short-lived run of the television show and the local nature of Dutch Wonderland, Danger Rangers as a whole fell into obscurity, along with Danger Rangers Live. Today, while all episodes of the television program are easily watchable on YouTube, the live show remains lost in its entirety. All that remain are a handful of photographs and newspaper clippings advertising the show. According to the comment section on the show's Lost Media Wiki page, users have reached out to Dutch Wonderland through Facebook, which the park responded to and claimed they were unable to locate any recordings of the live show in their archive. This claim has not been verified, but unfortunately, it looks as though this show is at risk of being permanently lost. This means the next best chance of recovering the show is from a video recording from a park guest. Until something of the sort comes to light, however, this obscure children's live show is lost. Sonic Live in Sydney. Sega World was a series of indoor amusement parks and arcade centers owned and operated by Sega. The Sega World brand is extinct today, with the majority of the locations throughout Japan and China closing down due to poor attendance, while others were sold off during the 2022 acquisition of Sega and its properties by Genda Incorporated, and changed to Gigo Arcades, which stands for Get Into the Gaming Oasis. Back in the late 90s, however, Sega World was expanding across the globe, with hopes of forming solid presences in Europe, Oceania, and eventually North America. One of the first of these new locations was Sega World Sydney in Darling Harbour, Sydney, Australia. Set in a building specifically made for this unique indoor amusement park, Sega World Sydney held a live Sonic the Hedgehog stage show called Sonic Live in Sydney. In total, the show had 2 very distinct versions. In its first year, the show was a musical performed by live full-body costumed characters of Sonic and his friends, based on the animated series and the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 video game. The show's plot primarily focused on Dr. Robotnik trying to take over Sydney. This version had a CD of its soundtrack available for purchase, and therefore the audio of this version has been found in full. However, no video for this first performance exists outside of a few photographs and a GIF of the main Sonic performer dancing. After the show's first year, Sega responded to poor attendance at the show and Sega World Sydney as a whole by reworking the show in its entirety. Philip Einfeld, the owner of Philip Einfeld Puppet Tunes, was the man hired to revamp the stage show. He claimed in an interview posted to the Sonic Stadium forum that Sega decided to change the show after its first year because they didn't find it to be, quote, dynamic enough. The live mascot-style characters were swapped out for a puppet show that would be performed with dining tables laid around the area so park guests could eat while watching the show. Einfeld completely remade the stage for live puppeteering, with each show being performed by 2 puppeteers and a human host. A variety of photographs of Philip Einfeld himself painting the sets and standing with the puppets exists on the internet, as well as concept art and bits of the lyrical scripts for a few of the songs in the puppet version. As far as we know, the plot of the 2 shows remained mostly the same, even with the change in medium. An archive of Einfeld's work is also available online, showcasing his artistic style while also giving us insight into what the show at Sega World might have been like. This second version of the show lasted for just 1 season, as all versions of the live stage show ceased production by 1998. Just 2 years later, in 2000, Sega World Sydney closed its doors for good. The building, which was specifically designed and constructed for Sega World, remained totally empty and abandoned for years before a new buyer demolished the building in 2008. As recently as the editing of this video, a short 9-second clip of the puppet version was located by Lost Media Wiki user Knuckleshead. Unfortunately, outside of this brief clip, the video footage of both versions of the show remain lost in their entirety until a patron who happened to record the show comes forward. Sesame Street Live. Sesame Street Live is a series of live 90-minute stage shows starring the popular characters of Sesame Street. Like many of the shows mentioned earlier, including Dragon Tales Live, which was produced by the same company, V Corporation, later renamed to V-Star Entertainment Group, the performers wore full-body mascot costumes for the show, with dialogue playing over speakers. The show began in September of 1980, after Vincent Egan acquired the rights to the Sesame Street license. The show's first ever premiere was titled A Sesame Street Mystery: The Case of the Missing Brera Avis, and was performed at the Metropolitan Sports Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which unfortunately no longer exists. This does line up, however, with the similar tour progression of Dragon Tales Live, and is again in the same city as the then V Corporation headquarters. The show began with a rocky start, reportedly due to poor marketing, but quickly found its footing and became one of the most popular and long-running shows of its kind, with new Sesame Street Live performances continuing to this very day. However, like the live shows discussed before it, Sesame Street Live has many missing shows, missing segments of partially found shows, and missing original music. According to the Lost Media Wiki, most of the shows that are missing premiered between the years 1980 and 2003, before viewer filming was commonplace. Thankfully, most everything from the mid-2000s onwards has been archived in some form or another, helped most especially by the proliferation of YouTube. However, unfortunately, information is extremely scarce on the earliest shows, especially ones which premiered during the pre-internet era. Still photographs, the occasional snippet, or advertising material is often all that can be found online for many of these shows. This alone creates nearly a quarter century of lost media. It really is easy to forget just how long-running the Sesame Street property is, both on television and live on stage. V-Star Entertainment Group lost the license to Sesame Street in 2017 to Feld Entertainment, which produces the Disney on Ice series of shows, which has been running nearly as long as Sesame Street Live. V-Star Entertainment Group supposedly archived all of its live shows for preservation, but the location of those tapes is unknown with the change in licensees. In total, 15 shows remain at least partially and in many cases mostly lost, while 2 shows, Around the World from 1983 to 1985 and Where's the Birdie from 1992 to 1994, remain lost in their entirety. There is, however, hope that this media will all soon be found. Sesame Digest, a media archival YouTube channel dedicated to the preservation of Sesame Workshop content, especially live stage content, had begun uploading previously lost shows. This user over the past couple of years has uploaded multiple previously lost Sesame Street Live shows many times in their entirety. This includes a very recently lost show, Big Bird's Sunny Day Campout from 1999 to 2002, which before this full show upload had been lost in its absolute entirety. V Corporation behind the scenes footage and more can also be found on this channel. If you are at all interested in these early live Sesame Workshop and V Corporation productions, I absolutely implore you to check out their channel. They clearly have access to some V Corporation footage, and is a self-described Muppet superfan. If efforts like these continue, it may not be long until Sesame Street Live is missing no longer.